So finished up all the shaving all the rest of the stuff on the car. Basically now the shell is ready for primer. I'm not going to do the bumpers today. They're going to need a different primer, more of a flexible primer. First thing we're going to do to get it ready to prime is we're going to wipe the whole thing down with some just some final wipe spritz there, and then we're going to mask it all off with this 3M plastic sheeting. And the primer we're going to be using today is the Evercoat Super Build. Real good primer, super easy to mix, super easy to use. This is the newer stuff. It's kind of different. It sprays on pink, so if you guys are wondering in the video why it's pink, it's supposed to be like that. And then when you sand it, it turns gray. And this stuff will give us a good amount of build. Bang for the buck. It's just good primer for body work. We don't have to worry about sinkage issues and stuff like that. And it's got a good build. So let's get to it. Shell masked up. So basically we're only gonna prime the bodywork area. We don't need to prime the whole car. The sprayable polyester, it's good for bodywork because it is quite tough to sand it. So keep that in mind if you use it. You're gonna have to prime it again. So we're only doing this for the bodywork areas. And then on the final prime, we'll prime it black so that when we go to paint it, it's already a good shade to put black right over and make it a lot easier when it's in the booth. And I don't know if I mentioned, but this stuff here, you do need a 2.0 or bigger tip for a primer gun. If you're gonna spray it, it comes out pretty thick. So this gun here has got a 2.3, so it'll put it on pretty good. So we're just gonna put 2-3 coats of that on and call it a day. Okay, everything's all primed up with the pink high build. So like I was saying, this stuff, it's got kind of like a built-in guide coat. It sprays on pink, and when you sand it, it actually turns gray. So yeah, it's not a pink primer. So what I'm gonna do now, like I was saying, I didn't need to prime the whole car, just the bodywork. So I'm gonna sand this all down. I'm gonna block it all down with some with a nice good block and some 180. And I've sanded a spot here. You can kind of see, I don't know if you can see in the video, but he picks up the highs and the lows pretty good. And yeah, so I'm gonna sand this all down with 180. And basically after that, we'll remask it, and then all this stuff will prime it black. So they do say with this stuff you can top coat over it, but I would recommend priming over top of it because you're gonna have to sand it with 120, 180, or 240 because it's basically like sprayable body filler. It's a lot to sand it. It doesn't sand like a normal surfacer. So you gotta you're putting this stuff on for the build. So we're basically gonna give it a good block and get our body work nice and straight. And yeah, once we final prime it, we're off to the races. So I'm all done blocking it down with 180. It was a mission. So now basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my DA with hard pad, some 400, and I'm gonna sand out all these scratches all the way around. So I'm gonna do that, get it ready for primer. Primer number 2. Okay, everything's final sanded with 400. Basically just getting it ready. I'm gonna mask it all up again, and we're gonna prime everything black now. Basically not priming the whole car black, just the spots that are pink grayish. First thing I am gonna do, good practice, I'm gonna wipe everything down with some final wipe, especially around the urethane. You know, the tape will stick a lot better. It doesn't like to stick good when it's full of dust. And just make sure the panel's clean, get all the dust off it. You know, sometimes I've ran into instances where, you know, a contaminant might have landed on the surface and it could cause, you know, fish eyes or problems. So it's just good practice to give it anytime you're gonna put an undercoat or top coat, just give it a wipe with some final wipe solvent. You know, do not use thinner for this. You'll end up destroying your primer and everything. You know, you want to use a mild solvent, like a final wipe. She's all masked up with the plastic sheeting. Make sure it's. I know it probably kind of seems a little sketchy with the plastic sheeting, but this stuff works very well. So I'm going to be priming this with the Valspar direct to metal primer. Stuff's relatively cheap, works well, and the best thing I like about it too is it's direct to metal, so we don't need to put an etch or anything down on the bare metal before we prime it. So it's a little bit time saving that way. So yeah, I'll mix that up and we'll get her painted black. All right, so she's all primed up in black. She looks a lot better than the pink primer. So basically what I'm gonna do now, it's all primed up. I'm basically gonna block down, just give the bodywork one last good block. Make sure everything's nice and straight, and then final sand it. And yeah, once it's final sanded, it's basically ready for some paint. Alright, so for this step, I'm going to use some 400 and a block. Okay, where's the block? All right, so I got it all blocked down with 400. Using my my little 3M block here, some 400, some 6-inch 400 Velcro. So what I'm gonna do now is I got my little Matco cordless DA here. I love this thing, works awesome. It's nice, especially for at home. You don't have to drag an airline around. It is a bit big and awkward to use, but it sands really nice. With that being said, this one, the bearings do make a bit of noise in it, so I apologize for that. Might have to mute that part, but other than that, it'll make short work of sanding this car. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna sand it with the DA with 400, because hand sanding with 400 and using it on a dual action sander is almost like two different grits. So if you can see here, you can see how aggressive the scratches are. This part here, I 400'd that already with the DA. So it's gonna give us it's gonna get rid of a lot of those scratches, and then basically once that is 400'd, we can jump right up to 800. It's gonna go, you can skip that 600, go right to 800 because it's already fine enough. So yeah, let's get on to sanding it. Alright, now we're all done. DAing it with 400. What I'm gonna do now is I got some 800 grit here and an old Scotch-Brite, and I'm basically gonna sand down all the edges here that aren't sanded. So I'm gonna sand all my edges, all the stuff that I couldn't get with the DA. I'm gonna sand that down with 800, and then once that's done, I'm basically gonna do the final sand with 800 on the machine with the soft pad, and that's basically it. So what I probably will end up doing is a couple like these burn throughs here. I'll probably just, you know, put a spot prime on those, like one quick coat, just so that they're black instead of gray. That way when I go to base it, it's gonna make life that much easier. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have enough base there, and that could ruin your paint job.